The Last Stand of Men at Dor-Lomin. Hello, and welcome back to another video from Secrets of the Rings, where we celebrate and delve deep into all things Tolkien. Today we will uncover the last stand of the Men of Dor-lómin in the epic clash of the First Age known as the Nirnaeth Arnoediad, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears. What events led to this battle? How did the warriors of men fare in the chaos? What was the result of the conflict? If you enjoy our videos, please like and subscribe for more content, and let us know what you would like to see more of. The Men of Dor-lómin were also known as the Men of the North. They had been given lands in Dor-Lomin from the Noldor, which they possessed for generations. They were friends of the Elves and fought alongside them in many battles. The Nirnaeth Arnoediad took place in First Age 472, but was the culmination of a number of events that also defined the late First Age. By this time in Beleriand, the Noldor, as well as all those who dwelt in Middle-earth, had seen much defeat and despair at the hands of Morgoth and his armies. The Dagor Bragollach, the Battle of Sudden Flame, fought in First Age 455, was a massive blow, resulting most sorrowfully in the death of Fingolfin, then High King of the Noldor. A spark of hope lit the eyes of Maedhros, however, the eldest son of Feanor. News of the quest for the Silmaril had spread, where several years earlier, Beren and Luthien successfully penetrated Angband and removed a Silmaril from the Iron Crown of Morgoth. The great evil had proven fallible in the face of a mere mortal and his elven companion. Maedhros sought to unite the remaining forces of Middle-earth, to take the offensive against Morgoth before it was too late. Beleriand was vulnerable, but many great warriors remained. Some refused the call due to their quarrels with the sons of Feanor, namely Curufin and Caranthir. Orodreth of Nargothrond and Thingol of Doriath declined to lend a hand for such reasons. The union of Maedhros would ultimately consist of two main hosts. Maedhros and his brothers, Malgor and Caranthir, gathered what would become the western hosts of the attack on the plains of Anfauglith, the scorched remains of what was once green and known as Ardgalen until Morgoth's destruction got to it. With these three were the Noldor of East Beleriand, Azaghol and the dwarves of Belegost, and the Easterlings under Bor and Ulfang. In the west, Fingon, High King of the Noldor, gathered forces in the forests of Eredwethrin. This force consisted of the Noldor of Hithlum, a number of Falathrim from the western shores, Húrin and Huor with the Men of Dor-lómin, Haldir and the Men of Brethil, and some fighters from under those rulers who refused to join the Union. These included Mablung and Beleg of Doriath, and Gwyndor, the Prince of Nargothrond, seeking to avenge his brother. Their actions were much welcomed, but none more so than that of Turgon, Fingon's younger brother, and ruler of the hidden city of Gondolin. With him came a force of 10,000 Gondolindrim, comprised of Noldor and Sindarin warriors. Maedhros' host in the east was meant to draw out the armies of Morgoth to the plains of Anfauglith, while Fingon's host remained hidden in the woods of Eredwethrin, awaiting the lighting of a beacon in Dorthonion. When summoned, Fingon's host would flank that of Morgoth's and overwhelm them from multiple directions. However, Morgoth had learned of the plans from the Easterlings, some of which had been spies for the Dark Lord. Morgoth sought to keep the two forces from uniting and sent out orcs to fight both hosts. One of his forces brought with them Gwyndor's brother, Gelmir, who had been taken prisoner in the Dagor Bragollach, and he was slain before Gwyndor and the rest of the company. In a fit of rage, Gwyndor broke ranks and attacked the orcs, drawing in Fingon and the rest of the forces, save Turgon, who would not march on such an impulsive action. Gwyndor's fury proved formidable, as he and the rest broke the army sent to meet them, taking them to the gates of Angband. They fought hard, and for a time it seemed the Dark Lord's plan was faltered, as they breached the gate and slew his guards. But he had not yet released his full might, and the elves were overtaken in his halls, along with Haldir and his men in the rearguard. Turgon joined with Fingon to re-establish their footing. but the eastern host was scattered before they could reach the western host. Morgoth released the rest of his forces, including the mightiest of his creations in Balrogs, and Glaurung, the father of dragons. The sons of Feanor escaped south, while the dwarves courageously fought off and wounded Glaurung at the cost of their king's life. Some Easterlings had betrayed one another, in addition to the Union itself, and fighting broke out amongst their own forces. Gothmog, the High Captain of Angband, led the orcs against the western host and faced off with Fingon in single combat. Eventually, Fingon was bound by the whip of another Balrog and was slain by Gothmog. Many had fallen or fled at this point, but the men of Dor-Lomin remained, as well as the forces of Turgon, the new High King of the Noldor. However, Turgon's city of Gondolin was still kept hidden from Morgoth, and it was vital that it remained so. Urged upon him by Húrin Thalion, Lord of Dor-Lomin, and his brother Huor, King Turgon retreated through the pass of Sirion. Huor had declared to Turgon that through his house, the hope of the free peoples of Middle-earth would arise. Húrin, Huor, and the men of Dor-Lomin formed a line along the fen of Serech, the marshlands that stood before the pass of Sirion, and made their last stand against the forces of Morgoth. Many men were slain there, including Huor, who had been pierced in the eye with a poison arrow. But King Turgon's retreat to Gondolin was successful. Húrin fought with the strength of all his people behind him, slaying 70 orcs himself in that battle. He swung his axe until it began to disintegrate, and he was buried under the bodies of dead enemies. He was captured and brought to Morgoth, where he was sentenced to a brutal fate along with his family. Húrin had paid a heavy price to protect the realms of Middle-earth, despite what effect it may have had on the events that took place following his imprisonment. He refused to give up Gondolin's location to the Dark Lord, and he was chained to Thangorodrim for 28 years, watching the curse set upon his family play out amongst his wife, Morwen, and children, Turin Turambar and Nienor Niniel, as well as those they encountered. But upon all whom you love, my thought shall weigh as a cloud of doom, and it shall bring them down into darkness and despair. Wherever they go, evil shall arise. Whenever they speak, their words shall bring ill counsel. Whatsoever they do shall turn against them. They shall die without hope, cursing both life and death. The children of Húrin, the words of Húrin and Morgoth. Morgoth would also betray his own spies, confining the Easterlings within the mountains of Heathlum, away from the fertile lands they desired. There they took up the remaining men, children, and women as slaves, including Húrin's family. Yet it was now true that courtesy of man's nobility, Gondolin remained, along with Doriath and Nargothrond, the surviving realms of Morgoth's onslaught. Much of the story that unfolds thereafter is directly related to this last stand of men at the fen of Serech, and is still a noteworthy act of courage in the First Age. This act of bravery and honor is a perfect example of the strong will of mortals we meet in Tolkien's writings. Despite an unknown fate after death, so many men are willing to sacrifice their lives for the good of a free Middle-earth. What do you think? What would have happened if Turgon was killed that day? Can Gwyndor be blamed for not holding the line? What are some other acts of courage from these stories that stand out to you? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Check out our channel to see more videos that explore the rest of the story. Thanks again for joining us in another exploration of Tolkien's Legendarium, and stay tuned for more fascinating videos. Be sure to like and subscribe, and give us a follow on Instagram at Secrets of the Rings. Until next time, Namarye.